Kahalo Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Bukakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles, great males on the wealth. I am not a member, however, I've entered into their labors. Peace and mercy to the sincere brothers and sisters doing this, wherever you are, whatever your lot may be. I did a video earlier in the week talking about uncertainty and how our heart, our trust, our mind, everything should be focused on things in the heavens, right? On Yahweh, Yahweh Shai. Not in a system created to fail. Not in a system that was meant to be your punishment. Okay, this is not your paradise. This is not your heaven. This is your learning opportunity. This is your hell. This is our hell. This is our learning opportunity. This is a sentence for us to be carried out. Okay, so things are continuously going to get shaky. And like I said before, the market will go up and it'll go down. So, you can use this world, but yet not abuse it. Okay. And if you can get ahead a little bit, hey man, do what you do. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. All I'm saying is if you are in if the Lord has blessed you with a little piece of change, right? Okay, put it to good use. Okay, get you a couple cans of beans or something. I don't know. Figure it out. All right, that's for you to work out. But anyway, this is going to be in addition to that. So this video is a little under 15 minutes long. I'm going to let it play through for the most part, and we're going to just do some commentary just to kind of dig in on this Bretton Woods agreement and how there's no new thing under the sun. We are watching the same thing happen. Okay, these monetary things, these trade wars, these monetary undercuttings. And tariffs. Tariffs aren't new, okay? Trump is not the first to do this. Plenty of presidents and prime ministers and leaders of other countries have done this as well. And we're going to see that. We're going to, I'm going to allow this video to play and it'll be explained. But what the point of it is that it's so chaotic that they're going to say, hey, we need to sit down and come up with a standard, just as they did with the Bretton Woods. Now, of course, the U.S. didn't hold their end of the deal, right? They pegged the dollar to the gold, and in the other countries where their currency was valued off of, how of each other. Country values of their dollar were valued, based off each other or relative to each other, which is why when you travel, your U.S. dollar goes a little bit farther in other places than, say, the local currency would go here in Babylon. But it started out a good idea. Okay, these currencies were doing trade, undercutting each other by competitive devaluation, and we'll get those definitions. We'll pause it and get it. Okay, and they needed a standard. They needed something so that it would be fair across the board, right? As long as the U.S. was at the head. You're going to see now, since we are going digital, these very same issues that are happening is an indication of a change in the monetary system, okay? And that's when you got, so let's start off with two scriptures here, okay? This Bible is true to the core, and if you link it to these things that are going on today, right, you can really put this together. So I got a message on my phone. I'm trying to see what's going on here. Okay. Alright, so 2 Corinthians 2:11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And these are just things that this devil has been on. There is nothing new, no new thing. I know that's at the time. Actually, we need a couple of them because I want to get Revelation 13 and 16. We cannot go without mentioning the MOTB, okay? Because this currency is going digital, and with the buying and selling, it's tied to your identity. And everything that is you will be on that electronic device. Where are we at? Let's see. Here we go. Ecclesiastes 1 and 10. Is there anything whereof, let me start over. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new? It hath been already of old time, which was before us. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things that are to come. With those, I should have read 9. No new thing under the sun, and I think it's a little bit farther, a little bit further up. Let's see. 1 and 9, the third. Oh, yeah. This is what I needed. The thing that hath been is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. That's what we needed there. Okay. Alright. So I could give me a second. Let me do this. Okay. And what did I say? 13 and 16. We're going to front load these scriptures first, because this is going to be kind of lengthy. Straight to the point here. Actually, we'll do 15. No, we're just going to read 11 to 16. Alright, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. That is this system. Just as the old Rome with the plebeians and patricians, you have here the Democrats and Republicans, each, tossing the ball to each other for a slam dunk. Okay, there is no difference between either one of the parties. One serves to show you, one image, and then the other shows you another image. But behind the scenes, they are doing the exact same thing. They are ending with one goal, right? Okay? And he spake as a dragon. Now, other videos have been done where they go into this, but we're just gonna go ahead and get it anyway. Great serpent named for Satan, right? Satan, and we're talking about this physical representation, which is Esau, Edom. Who is in charge here? Okay? These are the people that dictate currencies, dictate policy, dictate things that go around the world, right? And so you go a little bit further, and it tells you the earth is given into the hands of the wicked, right? And then you read Genesis 27, and it tells you by thy sword, Esau shall live. Okay, that is what you see here. It is very practical, all right? When you're given the Spirit to understand, if you're given the gift of the Holy Spirit to understand, these scriptures are very practical. Only through Christianity do they make the practicality the parabolic, and then they make the things that are supposed to be parabolic, they make them literal, and that's where you get that weird blend of Greek mythology you got going, right? And he exercised all the power of the first beast, okay, which was the old Roman Empire, and caused the earth and did wish to dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Okay, now it is right back here, NATO and the EU, okay, and then the whore is at the front. Babylon, the whore, is on that beast system. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had a sword and did live. Which had the wound by a sword and did live. He had power to give life unto the image. So back then there was not. Now you have this whole AI thing going on, and they're building these robots. They're building, things that you can see, these great wonders, right? That even if the very elect might have been deceived, if it were possible, but it is not. And don't ever think for 1 second that the ancient world was not just as advanced, maybe even more advanced than we are now. Technology has just taken on a different face. Okay, that's all it has. It's just a different face. Should both speak, the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And let's see what worship goes into. Reverence, right? But we understand it is your mind is given unto this. You believe in this system, you believe in its ways, and you subscribe unto it. And it is, instead of seeking the old path. Um, Wait, did I get that right? What did I say? Worship here. Okay, yeah.
Strong's G, 4352. Proskuneo. Proskuneo.
Which I imagine where you get the word prostrate from. To prostrate oneself. Kiss to the hand towards one in token of reverence. Alright, among the Orientals, especially the Persians, to fall upon the knees on the ground, which is the forehead, which is an expression of a profound reverence, right? And that is an Eastern thing. Is to bow, right, in reverence. In the New Testament, by kneeling, or prostration, to do homage to one or make obeisance, whether in order to express respect or to make supplication. All right, so you see. Probable deviation. Okay. Like a dog licking his master's hand, right? And when they want to put that freaking thing in you, you are the dog and they are your master. And they want to put that electronic piece in you, right? You have bowed in obeisance, okay? Because you want to keep what is in this world. You reverence everything that is in this dying world. 15, he had the power to give life to the image. Oh, yeah, we read that. So 16, he calls it all. You see how it rolls right into it? There is a reason. He calls us all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive AMARK in their right extremity or their cranium, frontal lobe of the cranium, alright? And it doesn't matter where you get it. I don't give a damn if it's in your pinky toe. Your ass is going down. You take this, and it tells you in the next chapter what happens. You're cooked, buddy. You're out of there. Alright, so we front loaded our scriptures here. And before we go to this video, it's a copyright disclaimer because I don't know it by hand. Alright, so fair use under the section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use. Alright, this is educational only. I do not have a monetized channel. I do not make money off of this. I am not a 501c3 organization. I'm just somebody who loves the Bible and wants to link it to what we see here throughout recent history and present time. That is it. Okay. So, also, since this is a little bit long, we're just gonna make a brief overview real quick. For some folks who may not have the time to look at this video in its entirety, or this just, you got a short attention span. This is the Bretton system, okay? So I'm going to put it in simple terms and hit you with some key points, okay? So it was an agreement made in 1944, go figure, right? And how many countries? 44 countries, all right? They managed global money and trade after World War II, okay? They set rules on how countries would work together to keep the economy stable, right? They needed some sort of standard. Why? Because previously, we had the Great Depression here in Babylon, and they were trying to bring jobs back to America, or into America, to feed into the economy. But these other countries were undercutting each other with purposeful devaluation of their dollar, just to get ahead, right? So there was chaos and they needed a standard. Hone in on that, because that's what's happening now. There's going to be chaos, and these problems that these devils have already made on their own, they are going to come up with this wonderful, and I put that in quotes, insert sarcasm, this wonderful solution, okay? So first it was Bretton Woods. Now who knows what this is going to be called? A digital, a digital agreement, all right, of Washington, D.C. digital agreement, whatever, who knows? Okay, so key features of it: U.S. dollar. Okay, that was pegged to the gold at $35 per ounce. All right, and then the other countries' currencies were tied to the dollar. So the dollar directly dealt with gold. The U.S. dollar directly dealt with gold at $35 an ounce, and then these other countries pegged their currencies to the dollar. Okay, and you fast forward a little bit, that whole thing with with only trading in oil, right? I'm sorry, only trading oil for dollars, which is another story we may have to go into. We're going to stick to the point here. And just as countries in the future could trade their dollars for oil, um, here countries would exchange dollars for gold from the U.S. Okay, now you have the creation of the IMF, or the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. Okay, this helped countries loan and rebuild. So there was war, and or say, Babylon would do things to these other countries and install puppet leaders, and then they would help them rebuild as long as they did the bidding, as long as they fell in line, right? And go figure, World Bank, that would lend to both sides, lend to whoever, because they win regardless. And we're not going to mention who's probably at the top of these funds, or the IMF and the World Bank, right? It goes without saying. Okay, so after World War II, we're going to fast forward a little bit. All right, the countries were broke. Everybody spent all their money on war, just as they did in World War I. And they were printing a bunch of money in World War I as well, just as we see happening here at the precipice of World War III. Okay, so a whole bunch of countries went broke. All right, trade was a mess. There was disorganization. All right, the Great Depression and the war made the value of money go up and down, just all over the place, right? Because people needed a standard, right? These problems are man-made, self-inflicted wounds here. But anyway, let's keep going. All right, so countries. The problem with the value of each country's dollar going up and down, it's hard to make purchases. It's hard to buy and sell, right? Okay, so what did you need? Why was Bretton Woods Agreement needed? So we're going to hit 4 points. Okay, stop currencies from crashing. All right, because they want to stop the chaos. All right, you want to make trade easier, keeping exchange rates stable. So stability of exchange rates. Okay, if countries needed to rebuild, they need to ensure they can trust each other. They can trust the money. So like, they needed to borrow money. Let's say if you borrow money at a value of it was valued really low one day and really high the next day, how are you supposed to repay it? You're back broke again, right? So they needed stabilization. And that's what we're really honing in on here, is the stabilization. All right, and they wanted to basically just to avoid a global financial disaster. So you see, there's nothing new under the sun. This is exactly what's going on now, leading up to this whole digital thing. And as you know, all the countries are going digital, right? And then if we fast forward, because the system worked, I don't know, probably like 30 years, and up until Nixon, all right, so, and the U.S. kept printing money, especially with I believe it was the Vietnam War, all right. So here are the reasons, quick hits on the reason for the collapse. Too much printing of the dollar. It could not keep up with how much gold was there, all right. So other countries were looking at the U.S. like, you got a lot to spend. And again, how much gold you got? And the U.S. was like, man, don't worry about that shit, bro. Unless y'all want us to come bomb y'all ass, basically. Shut up. Okay, so the gold got short. All right, so France wanted their money back. Germany wanted their gold. And obviously there was no gold to give. Alright, so as Europe and Japan started to get a little stronger, alright, they didn't want their currency tied to the dollar. And these are just two countries, for example. Okay, as the countries grew and got stronger, they saw the writing on the wall, did not want to be tied to the dollar, because they saw how the U.S. was just printing, but did not have the gold to back it up. Okay, spells disaster, doesn't it? Alright, so you go 1971, Nixon, alright, ended the dollar's link to gold, alright, called it the Nixon shock. right? And then without gold back in the system collapsed. Okay? So, let's let this play, and it's going to go over all of this and then some, but those are just some quick hits just in case. So if you want to cut the video now, you can. But, you know, if you're here to stay, cool. Let's roll.
Welcome to Business School 101. When we learned the international monetary system, the Bretton Woods Agreement is an important topic that cannot get around. The Bretton Woods Agreement was negotiated in July 1944 by delegates from 44 countries at the United Nations Monetary and Financial Conference held in Bretton Woods, an area within the state of New Hampshire, United States. The agreement not only was the first example of a fully negotiated monetary order intended to govern monetary relations among independent countries, but also created two important global financial institutions, the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. So why the world need to negotiate this agreement and establish these financial institutions? What are their major missions? Why they are so important to the international monetary order? In this video, I will answer these questions for you. Section 1. The background. Before World War I, most countries were on the gold standard, which means each country guaranteed that it would redeem its currency for its value in gold. The gold standard worked reasonably well from the 1870s until the start of World War I in 1914, when it was abandoned. During the war, several governments financed part of their massive military expenditures by printing money. This resulted in inflation, and by the war's end in 1918, price levels were higher everywhere. The United States returned to the gold standard in 1919.
Can you please just hear
Down.
me? No, older management platforms are the same. They take forever to learn, and in the end, nobody uses them. Monday.com is the one you'll actually love to use. It lets you set up your workflows yourself.
Great Britain in 1925 and France in 1928. Great Britain returned to the gold standard by pegging the pound to gold at the pre-war gold parity level of £4.25 per ounce, despite substantial inflation between 1914 and 1925. This priced British goods out of foreign markets, which pushed the country into a deep depression. When foreign holders of pounds lost confidence in Great Britain's commitment to maintaining its currency's value, they began converting their holdings of pounds into gold. The British government saw that it could not satisfy the demand for gold without seriously depleting its gold reserves, so it suspended convertibility in 1931. The United States followed suit and left the gold standard in 1933, but returned to it in 1934, raising the dollar price of gold from $20.67 per ounce to $35 per ounce. Since more dollars were needed to buy an ounce of gold than before, the implication was that the dollar was worth less. This effectively amounted to a devaluation of the dollar relative to other currencies. Thus, before the devaluation, the pound-dollar exchange rate was 1 pound equals to $4.87, but after the devaluation it was 1 pound equals to $8.24. By reducing the price of U.S. exports and increasing the price of imports, the American government was trying to create employment in the United States by boosting output. However, a number of other countries adopted a similar tactic.
Alright, see, so boosting that output, and that's what you see Trump claiming to do here now, is trying to bring things back to Babylon, bring these jobs back to Babylon.
And in the cycle of competitive devaluations that soon emerged, no country could win. The net result was the shattering of any remaining confidence in the system. With countries devaluing their currencies at will, one could no longer be certain how much gold a currency could buy.
Right, so they want to sow that uncertainty and then present a present a solution to that uncertainty, and which we see now will be that digital infrastructure. I'm going to fast forward here. We're going to skip to section 2.
Section 2. The Establishment. In 1944, at the height of World War II, representatives from 44 countries met at Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to design a new international monetary system. With the collapse of the gold standard and the Great Depression of the 1930s fresh in their minds, these statesmen were determined to build an enduring economic order that would facilitate post-war economic growth. There was consensus that fixed exchange rates were desirable. In addition, the conference participants wanted to avoid the senseless competitive devaluations of the 1930s, and they recognized that the gold standard would not assure this. The major problem with the gold standard as previously constituted was that no multinational institution could stop countries from engaging in competitive devaluations. Though the Bretton Woods Conference itself took place over just 3 weeks, the preparations for it had been going on for several years. The primary designers of the Bretton Woods system were the famous British economist John Maynard Keynes and American chief international economist of the U.S. Treasury Department, Harry Dexter White. Keynes's hope was to establish a powerful global central bank to be called the Clearing Union and issue a new international reserve currency called the banker. White's plan envisioned a more loss-making fund and a greater role for the U.S. dollar rather than the creation of a new currency. In the end, the adopted plan took ideas from both, leaning more toward White's plan. The agreement reached at Bretton Woods established 2 multinational institutions, the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, and the World Bank. The task of the IMF would be to maintain order in the international monetary system, and that of the World Bank would be to promote general economic development. The Bretton Woods Agreement also called for a system of fixed exchange rates that would be policed by the IMF. Under the agreement, all countries were to fix the value of their currency in terms of gold, but were not required to exchange their currencies for gold. Only the dollar remained convertible into gold at a price of $35 per ounce. Each country decided what it wanted its exchange rate to be vis-a-vis the dollar, and then calculated the gold par value of the currency based on that selected dollar exchange rate. Another aspect of the Bretton Woods Agreement was a commitment not to use devaluation as a weapon of competitive trade policy. It wasn't until 1958 that the Bretton Woods system became fully functional. Once implemented, its provisions called for the U.S. dollar to be pegged to the value of gold. Moreover, all other currencies in the system were then pegged to the U.S. dollar's value. Section 3. The collapse. In 1971, concerned that the U.S. gold supply was no longer adequate to cover the number of dollars in circulation, President Nixon devalued the U.S. dollar relative to gold. After a run on gold reserve, he declared a temporary suspension of the dollar's convertibility into gold. By 1973, the Bretton Woods system had collapsed. Countries were then free to choose any exchange arrangement for their currency, except pegging its value to the price of gold. For example, they could link its value to another country's currency, or a basket of currencies, or simply let it flow freely and allow market forces to determine its value relative to other countries' currencies. Although it collapsed, the Bretton Woods Agreement remains a significant event in world financial history. The International Monetary Fund and the World Bank played an important part in helping to rebuild Europe in the aftermath of World War II. Subsequently, both institutions have continued to maintain their founding goals while also transitioning to serve global government interests in the modern day. So let's briefly introduce them.
Right. To serve global government interest in the modern day. And you can see clear as day what that means.
Those 2 organizations. Section.
Before we go, also, sorry, we're in section 4. There we go. So now when you read, what is it? The Nations Are Mad. Mr. Wine, I can't remember the name of that. Nah, that's too broad. That's too broad. Yeah, that's it. Jeremiah 51, I should have remembered that. And we're watching Jeremiah 49 through 51 play out here. Right. What did I say here? In 7. 6. We'll start with 6, and this is why, again, we're not going to put our trust here in this system. Alright, Jeremiah 51 and 6. Flee out of the midst of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of Yahweh's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand. And as you can see, as we are going through this whole thing here, how that is true, and how all these countries depend on Babylon, especially as we are the #1 consumer nation, maybe number 2. I'm going to say the #1 consumer nation, which is why the countries are going to, feel that remorse, not because they care about Babylon, but because they're going to lose out on a lot of money. Flee out of the midst. Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go. So 11. Babylon has been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand that made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken of her wine, therefore the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. How for her take balm for her pain? If so, she may be healed. Right? And these devils think that they are in control of the chaos. That soon the Lord is gonna take that remote out of their hand, and they are going to lose. Well, they're going to lose in general, but they not only are they going to lose control of this quote unquote controlled chaos, but you are going to witness the fall of the greatest nation the world has ever seen. All right, it is coming. What else did I say? Let's get wine, because not only are they, not only does that go monetarily into, entering into these agreements with a nation that can't keep any agreement it makes, but it's also, the accepting of the ways, drunken to drink. Okay. Her wine, yan. Whenever you hear wine or food, it's the accepting of a philosophy, right? Okay, so it doesn't say, but you can piece it together. Oh yeah, here we go.
For IBA, the IBRD provides loans at market rates of interest to middle-income developing countries and credit-worthy lower-income countries. The IBA, founded in 1960, provides interest-free long-term loans, technical assistance, and policy advice to low-income developing countries in areas such as health, education, and rural development. Whereas the IBRD raises most of its funds on the world's capital markets, the IBA's lending operations are mainly financed through contributions from developed countries. Headquartered in Washington, D.C., United States, the World Bank currently is staffed by more than 10,000 people, roughly one-fourth of whom are posted in developing countries. It is run by a president and 25 executive directors, as well as 29 various vice presidents. It has more than 100 offices in member countries, and in many countries, staff members serve directly as policy advisors to the Ministry of Finance and other ministries.
Now, I wonder who these quote-unquote policy advisors are, of what nationality or supposed nationality, and of whose interests they serve, right? Because they like to, slip in very sleek, very craftily, and make suggestions. I suppose we do this, or maybe it would be better if we did X, Y, Z instead of A, B, C. Again, that book, Against Our Better Judgment, talks a lot about how a certain group of individuals who happen to share a falsified claim of a nationality, they get in the governments of different countries, and to ensure the needs, or to ensure the interests of an outside or an external force or an external organization, their needs are met. Okay, and if you're picking up what I'm putting down, good. If not, hey, be quicker on the ball, right? Get on the good foot.
The bank has consultative as well as informal ties with the world's financial markets and institutions, and maintains links with non-governmental organizations in both developed and developing countries.
Well, NGOs, huh? How popular is that acronym now? Especially because even other Edomites are calling out that the JEW runs Babylon.
Within the IBRD, as of 2022, the US, Japan, China, Germany, and the UK have the most voting power. The voting power is based on a country's capital subscription, which is based in turn on its economic resources. Typically, the wealthier and more developed countries constitute the bank's major shareholders, and thus exercise greater power and influence. example, in the early 21st century, the United States exercised nearly 1/6 of the votes in the IBRD. Because developing countries hold only a small number of votes, the system does not provide a significant voice for these countries, which are the...
Right, so you see it'll be a race to figure out who is going to be in charge of the new digital currency. Assuming that all of these things remain intact, and the only thing changes is that there is no physical money. It's a race to see who will be in charge, and of course, Babylon wants everybody to get along. Let's all be one. Let's all be together. With me at the top, of course, but we're all together. Only time will tell. Okay, so I'll link the rest of this. There's no need to sit here and let the video play. And those were the scriptures that I grabbed. That's really it. But it's just something to kind of delve into and remember. There is no new thing under the sun. All right. Just as they created chaos through wars and depression and the devaluation of different currencies. And they said, hey, we need standardization. We need a solution. You're going to see that now. Alright, all roads lead to the MOTB. Monetary first, okay, and then everything else falls. That is why when you read Revelation 13 and 16, it goes into causing all both small, great, rich, and poor, free, and bond. That you can't buy or sell, because you need that in order to live life, especially in this system. You cannot function without buying, without selling. Alright, so with that being said, I pray that you are edified. Continue to, repent, pray, fast, or whatever. If you're in doubt, like I said, do those things and continue to watch as this place unfolds, right? The chaos is controlled now, but this devil will lose control of it, all right? The Lord has sent lion spirits unto them, and they think that they are going to do what they have done aforetime, right? But that just simply will not be the case. So on to the next. Shalom.